And then we are very excited and intrigued to hear our next presenter. She's from Serbia, and her name is Marija Kovac. I hope I said that right. She works at Webster University in Uzbekistan,
Mhm.
and that's a university of hospitals and physicians. So again, we're talking about intersectionality and interdisciplinary work. So that's exciting. And she's going to be talking about process writing versus product writing. So that's exciting. And the title is Ideating Going Wrong. I'm sure you're going to introduce the definition of ideating. I had to Google it myself, but of course, it's just forming an idea of, or imagining, or conceiving of. So I'm super happy and I'm looking forward to hearing from our next presenter. Thank you so much for attending, everyone, and welcome again to everybody who just came. We know that you had electricity problems in Kyrgyzstan, so thank you for persevering, and really happy to see that we have 44 attendees and stuff today. So that's wonderful. So with no further ado, thank you so much for coming, Ms. Kovac.
Hi. Hi, everybody. So let's see if we can get the presentation going first. It's a slideshow from the beginning. There we are. Now you see me, you hear me, everything is fine, right?
Great. Yes. Thanks.
Cool. Let's start. So design thinking 2. This is my second presentation in design thinking. I did the first one in the last conference, and I was so happy to be re-invited. That means that somebody liked the first one. So thank you so much for that. My name is Marija. I come from Serbia, and I wanted to comment on two things that people before me said. So we had the idea of collaboration with Dr. Marine, and we had being intimidated and scared when we share ideas with Kate, and there were a lot of post-it notes there. So I want to connect to that, if it's all right. So what do I do? Well, I teach at Webster University in Tashkent, but yeah, we don't have a medical department here, so no nurses, I'm afraid. Only English teachers doing their no worries, no worries. I'm just saying, if anybody wants a medical advice, I'm not the person to go to, right? Only you learn more about medicine as you grow older. So I do know more than I did before, but not as much as as I would have to be able to recommend anything. Though I am learning, I'm afraid. So first things first. You got the name, you got where I work, and let me explain who I work with. So my students are graduate students in TESOL, and they're learning a lot of different things about methodology. I also have students who are education and innovation graduates, and I have had a history of teaching undergrads in English for a long time. So what am I up to now? Well, design thinking is a new thing for me, and I don't have a mathematical logical brain. So for me, it was something that designers would do, obviously, and not teachers. And what I wondered what education had to do with it. Turns out it does have a couple of interesting things that we can implement in classrooms as well. So let's go over the idea of whether we want to or not. When I first realized that my school was open to these things, I was like, yeah, I can do it. Wow, great. Because I used to work in state schools where you wouldn't have that freedom. And I'm sure many of you know that. You work in schools that don't let you experiment, don't let you use your students to learn stuff. But they want you to follow the course book or syllabus or whatever they have laid out for you. I was wondering if I could get a mentor maybe, because it's a new thing for me and all that. The answer was no. So you had to do it your way. And this presentation is going to talk about the mistakes I made in one stage of the design thinking. There are many. We'll talk about that in a second. And I was wondering if anybody would volunteer to be my mentor, or maybe if you would find somebody to be your mentor within your school. I know you're not best friends with all of your colleagues, nobody ever is, but maybe there are two people who can do this with you. It can be a group thing. And think about what else can help, and then trying it out if you already have the green light from the school. So we're open, the schools are open to ideas, we're ready, we're teachable. We don't have mentors, unfortunately. It is a relatively new thing. So we just are all in it together, experimenting. The water is fine, but it does take courage to jump in. And unless you have other people who are there, it's kind of scary. I'm sure that, with conferences like these, and, if you go and dig through all we have on the internet, you won't feel alone. You will feel mentored. But talking to a proper person, a real person, would really be better. So if you could have somebody to go along with you, that would be great. If not, do it your way. I'm not going to say I did it my way. So what my way meant for me here. So I learned that there are some design thinking basics that I need to know. There are some stages you need to go through, and this is what engineers go through when they think of a new project and a new product that they want to sell us or give it to us. So they would understand the problem from customers' perspective. In our case, our customers or our clients are our students. So we would look at what they are struggling with and what we can do about it. We would observe, take notes, define the problem, but nicely define the problem the way you would when you do research. And then start ideating, which means freely coming up with ideas on how to solve the problem that you have. Then you build a solution and you test the solution and then go to previous phases if you need to, and you probably do. Now, the QR code there is for this lovely design thinking for schools poster. I think design thinking is something we can learn together with the students. If you take into consideration that when we had COVID, we kind of were forced to learn how to teach online. And although it was a struggle and, it didn't work as easy as we wanted it to, it did work out in the end, and we are better at it. Our students are better at learning online. So, but it was, there was this period where it was okay to make mistakes because everybody was making mistakes. So I think we are now in that period with design thinking in education. So I think this is the time when both students and you can go step by step through something new and see if it works out for you and for your classroom. Does it solve any of the problems that you have? So ideation, is that just brainstorming? Yes and no. Very often when we do writing, we want students to brainstorm the ideas and then group them and then do something with, right? So kind of like process writing. Unfortunately, a lot of us here are a generation that did not have process writing. We had product writing. People did not teach us how to write. We are self-taught most of the time. And I'm sure that you're not that kind of a teacher. So we're going to go and see what mistakes I did when I tried to do brainstorming right, or ideation actually right, and then if we could do it differently. So how about starting with the negative? How might we make our teaching unsuccessful? So this is me doing the devil's advocate thing here. and asking you to not think of how might we make teaching successful, but what can we do to mess it up? Let's be negative. Let's be those people who always criticize an idea and who have ideas how to do it wrong. Your teenagers or young adults will like this very much. Not, of course, this topic. This is the topic for you. You can ask something else of them, maybe. How might we make our school more fun or less fun? Because we're going into the negative. So negative brainstorming. If we say an idea that we don't actually think, we're playful. If we're playful, the brain has a chance to come up with some ideas that we can later reverse. So we start with the negatives, we get to about 20 negative ideas, and then we try to make the positives out of that, building an idea of an idea. So an idea gives birth to another idea. That's what this is all about. So you don't complete at the same time. That's very important. All the negatives first, and then switching to the positive. Now, when I tried that for the first time, I made a mistake of assuming that, for example, this thing. There is a new law demanding teachers to come to class 20 minutes late. Okay, so this was a negative example of how to make schools successful and efficient. We just want to be late and waste time, and if my students, and they did, just did the grammar version of the negative. So they would say, there isn't, or they would say, there is a new law demanding teachers to come on time. So they would make one thing opposite of what it was, and they felt that they did the assignment. That didn't get us anywhere. The idea was not to get the same idea in a mirror. The idea was to get a better new idea. And we were hoping for something like, there is a new policy that we have greeters of the day, and you're welcomed at the door by a joke, a quote, a hug. From the community, and everybody wants to be a part of a group. Really, we people are social animals. So I don't know if hugs are acceptable in your schools, but you do see videos of a lot of teachers greeting the students at the door with a special hug or a clap or their own original greeting. So maybe that could help. I'm sure that would help. So this was my first mistake, thinking that I will just say, make a negative idea a positive one, and it would not turn into a grammar exercise. Now, the reason why it did turn into a grammar exercise is because that's what we normally do with them. These students are products of grammar translation. So these things, sentence transformation is something they did more of than brainstorming or anything similar like ideating. My second mistake was just sitting and letting people think. So they have their prompt. I told them what to do. And I think that they all need just to focus. They need some peace and quiet, and everything will be okay. Sometimes it was. Sometimes some groups needed cheering. Some people enjoyed music in the background. Some people asked for it. So my idea, I'm a person who gets ideas when things are nice and quiet, when nobody's bothering me, but not everybody is like that. So I kind of forgot that. That was my second mistake. So classrooms can be quiet or can be noisy if people down the corridor, down the hall don't mind. Now, this is the second thing I did wrong. I thought that this was something that students should do on their own and that I should only be facilitating, but not giving examples of my own, not doing that because I was afraid they would say, aha, this is the kind of thing she wants. So they would try to please the teacher and then we don't have original ideas. Then it doesn't, doesn't go anywhere really. So that's not what we were hoping for. So I was trying not to participate, but I noticed that when in some groups I did participate, it worked out. People did not think my idea was better than theirs, and it did push them into working off my idea. So I don't know, I just had to dare, and I did. I'm not doing that all the time though, but sometimes when I feel they're stuck, I would go and write my own example as well. And this is what the flowers were for. So you've noticed the flowers I've got, the roses. This is an example of me not knowing that students need to be taught how to do feedback. You would assume that if they look at a rubric, they know how to give feedback, that they can do this questioning inside the head and then just write to their fellow classmate what could be done better or what was great. What happened was people would just write, "This is fantastic, congratulations," or things like that, or smiley faces, or "good job," or something very general like, "You should work on your vocabulary," whatever that meant, right? So we were trying to be more specific, and I tried to teach them this feedback technique. It's basically a picture of a rose, but as we all know, roses have thorns, which would be the negative things that we need to be aware of. Yeah, and they're the buds. So there's the potential in something that needs to be developed further, and then the rose, the perfect part, if you will. So students could have a picture and then label it rosebud thorn, and then put ideas for this specific assignment or these ideas that they brainstormed. Which one of them is the rose, which one is the bud, and which one is the thorn. A funny thing is that this is a technique used in business. So somebody saw there was money in it. So there are places where you could actually buy post-it notes in these shapes of a rose, bud, and a thorn. Not in Uzbekistan, obviously, but interesting as an idea. So that was one thing. Another thing, fifth mistake was something that Kate mentioned: feeling embarrassed, feeling intimidated, fear of losing face, especially when you work with adults who are already respected in their fields, and now they're learning something new, and they're surrounded by people who they want to leave a good impression on. They would be very careful of what they say. So the idea is that we try to explain that it's not a big deal, that no mistakes are bad. No, sorry, there are no ideas that are bad, and we would go from big to small. So the party exercise asks students to think of something completely crazy. Once you get that crazy out of the way, you'll get back to normal. So the exercise goes like this. You are given $50,000 to make a fantastic party by your administration for next weekend. What are you going to do? And then people start giving ideas. At some point, you encourage them more by saying, "You just spent $500. What else can you do?" So we get bigger and wilder. People start losing this fear that they're going to say something silly, because by now, everybody else is saying something silly. And then you just come with a sad face and say, "Unfortunately, the management has decided that there have to be some cuts. So the party is going to be organized, but you only have $500 in your budget." And then people have to think small. That is an interesting exercise. So they still think of, how are people going to have fun, or how are we still going to use balloons, but in a cheaper way, or or even free. Where can we get free balloons? Or so we get to something nice and rational, and even if it's not, it's going to be downsized, if you will. Sixth mistake, I've noticed not just in my students but also in me, that when I think of an idea, I like that idea so much. It's my baby, and I don't want to give it away. And I think it's the best idea. And I feel my job is to persuade everybody else that this is the idea we're going with. Unfortunately, statistically, the most successful idea for the project is probably not going to be the one you suggested, or the one, if you have several, the one that you're most proud of. So learning how to let go is a big thing. So there is a solution to that. We would start, so this is another mistake, with suggesting something that maybe doesn't sound silly, but it has never been done in the school. And you're wondering if the society is ready for it, if the class is ready for it. The idea that kind of solves all of these problems is you would ask students to write the wildest idea and their favorite idea on 2 separate pieces of post-it notes. And then they would go around the classroom talking about one and the other, but not saying which one's which. So just suggesting those 2 ideas as their ideas, defending them, giving the characteristics, giving the positives, the negatives, and all that. And then you let the class decide which one to keep, which one not to keep. So all of the ideas end up on the board, and then there is an elimination process. So then you don't have to worry, because if the idea is that wild and that crazy, nobody will accept it. And then if you thought that it was, or if it gets accepted, that maybe it's not as wild and as crazy as you thought. Now, what else can help? We are sometimes very insecure. I know I am, when it comes to something that I don't think I'm an expert in, or that it's something that I don't know, that I'm worse than average. So thinking in a logical way, analyzing, synthesizing, all that we had to do for writing courses, I don't feel very, strong at those skills. So there's something called self-limiting belief. And these are some, let's call them dark glasses, that prevent you from seeing things the way they are. They stop you going into places because you feel they're very dangerous. It's too dark for you, you can't see. So for example, I haven't studied design thinking at college, and I cannot teach it. Well, I'm sure you're trying to teach creative thinking or critical thinking, but you didn't have a class called critical thinking or creative thinking. So there's no way that you cannot teach design thinking as well if you want to, considering how many things are out there, especially with brainstorming and ideation, because it's kind of something you have done before. It's just important that as teachers, we continue to be non-dismissive. So no idea killers. And you can look at some on the left. Saying these things to the student would, would make them believe that their idea is not heard, that they are not heard, and it will not get them come to maybe a great idea. So all ideas are viable in this stage. Later on, you get to decide which one really, really makes sense and which one you want to go with for your project. So let's not be dismissive in the beginning. And if you want research and you're wondering what they're saying, take a look. So what this basically tells us is think, pair, share is a good strategy. So let the individuals think and come up with ideas. Then let the groups hear them and select the one that's going to work out. And it's probable that your students who came up with a certain idea are not going to choose their own later on. So we'll have to let the group as a group decide whether it's something interesting or not, out of shyness or, you know, trying to be modest and all that. So one last thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know if it's a thing in your countries, these kids are trying to imitate the train going round, making train sounds. And it's just a game for children. But for ideation, I like to do it as students line up and they come to the board, write the idea, and move on. While they're moving, they have a chance to think up of a new idea before their turn comes again. So that's something, yeah, and of course the first person goes to the back. It is something that maybe would work because you get the blood pumping, the brain gets the oxygen they need, they have the processing time. It was fun the couple of times that I did it. Sometimes we got great ideas, sometimes not. You have to complement it with another technique, but it's something to do. See if you can do. Start with that, if nothing else. If nothing of the other ideas was, something you would be interested in trying. I'd like to thank you for trying to do ideating, because that can lead to good solutions, whether in technology, whether in classrooms. And if you don't have any help, if you don't have anybody to mentor you, have you become a mentor to your students, and that will teach you in the process. Trust me, nothing scary to it at all. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Thank you very much. Now, if anybody has a question, I'll go down the chat now. So let's see.
Thank you so much. This was fun. I love that. Make the negative ideas first. I love that. Lots of fun ways to get people to think outside the box.
Yeah. I mean, I don't teach anybody in, those practical fields, but, and I don't have a practical mind, but I still think that we're clever enough to come up with ideas as crazy as they can get. And then something good will come out of it.
Yeah, sometimes our departments need some crazy ideas to shake things up, They definitely have, supervisors who like to do things the way that it's been done.
That's playing it safe, but you know what they say, if you do the same things you did before, you get the same results you got before. So
yeah. So I found some questions in the chat box.
Thanks,
Thank you very much for your presentation. Ainura Jakmarova from Kyrgyzstan, she says that design thinking is really important for nowadays, especially for PBL, project-based learning, and IBL. So group work, what do you think about this?
Well, she just made the statement that it's important.
In general, I mean that.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I chose it for my topic, right? I just think that we can start taking it apart the way I did it. So if we feel uncertain that we can get a project through from A to Z, right? Or Z, we can start with little phases here and there, an activity here and there, and then connect the dots for the first project. It's not going to work, beautifully, but it's going to work. And then later on, you can do it the right way, as you would for process writing, for example. So it does take getting used to. And I'm sure that's the problem with process writing too, because our students were told that all it matters is that you bring me a good essay at the end, you submit a good essay. I don't have to see your drafts. And that's our problem now with ChatGPT and all other things, because we don't get to see the drafts, we don't see the changes, we don't see the process, which means maybe the process never happened. Maybe we just, plagiarized something because the topic was convenient. So I'm now answering another person's question. But yeah. So to start fighting the plagiarism, to start fighting ChatGPT, one, see the advantages of it, like we did for the calculator. But then, like the calculator, you would not let students use it for 2 times 2, so let the brains develop as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. There are a lot of many thanks for you for the wonderful presentation. I do have a question. So while you were observing or just defining your mistakes that you have mentioned, so how long did it take and how did you work? Because the same I did with when I started teaching children with special needs. I was on every time, so I observed myself, tried to find what was good, what went well or bad. So how long did it take for you, and how?
A year.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah, last school year. The thing is, luckily in our profession, we very often have these seminars for teachers, and we also have lunch seminars at my institution. So it makes you do the reflection. I've been a teacher for a long time, and I understand the importance of reflection, but we don't get to do it. We don't really get to do it unless forced. And this is kind of forcing us. The fact that you have other people who are expecting to hear from you, who are willing to chat with you about a topic until you come to a resolution. This is something that, if you don't have your professional network, you have to build it, and then, learning happens there.
Yeah. And you try to anticipate those mistakes, yeah?
Well, you know yourself. So, I was afraid that I would jump in because my nature is not to sit still. So knowing your students and knowing yourself is a part of it. But then sometimes it's very unpredictable because it's a new thing. It's a new beast. So you don't know how it's going to behave. And, as teachers, we do a lot of improvising. So we go with the flow. And then when things happen, we intervene if we have to. But sometimes, sometimes something doesn't go as planned, but it goes well.
Yeah.
So you just let it be.
You're right. Thank you.
Can I manage to correct all my mistakes? No, Gulnara, no, I'm still a human. So no is the answer.
Yeah. I can share. So one of, as I mentioned in my own professional way. So I had a student with medical disabilities, that was kidney disorders, and just I tried to teach them as ordinary, and of course there were some special education elements as well. But I couldn't see in this student any improvement. And when he was reading kind of blurbing, Then later on, I defined that he has a dyslexia, It really, I felt bad on myself because I spent 8 months of teaching, but I didn't know about these disabilities. So defining mistakes sometimes, make you feel some regret. However, so when you work on it, maybe, whether.
Well, it comes from observation. Observation takes time. You have to have a chance to notice something. Plus, let's face it, when it comes to special needs, you are not the expert. I'm not the expert. So there are professionals who have good tests for all of these things and can verify what the problem, can notice and verify if that's really that. if that's dyslexia or this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we as teachers notice some signs, and then we send them off to somebody who can really test them professionally and then help them. Then we know how to help them if we know what the problem is.
Yeah, thank you. We have again Gulnarege. Yes. Could you suggest any strategies of working worse, hyperactive and lack of attention span students? Do you have such a kind of students?
I think we're using the word hyperactive and attention span very easily nowadays, maybe a bit too easily. I don't think that everybody who doesn't sit for 45 minutes completely still is somebody with ADHD. But if it's somebody, as we said, if it's somebody who has that diagnosed, then there is probably a professional at school who can guide you into how to help them, and then you can learn more about this specific need. I just feel that maybe we want kids to sit down for too long, to pay attention to something that is honestly not interesting for too long. And you can see us as adults. I mean, here we are listening to each other, but sometimes we're just like, okay, it's an online conference. I cannot take it anymore. I have to go and drink water. I'm not thirsty. My brain is just not there, right? So if that's us, imagine a kid's world where, you know, there's a lot going on upstairs and, you know, it's very hard to focus on something, especially when they're so accustomed to multi verses and all these videos and things that we didn't have. It's harder for them than it was for us. But so we criticize them because we judge them very often by our standards. Like, I was just sitting still and listening to the teacher. Why can't you? Right? So I'm afraid that we're trying to do what our teachers did, and it just doesn't work now. So let's give it a go with these things that we are learning from seminars. Let's read a little bit. Let's talk to parents if they've noticed something about the kid. Let's talk to specialists at school. As a class teacher, you can only do so much, but let's do that little.
Thank you very
This was
much.
really fun. I took a bunch of screenshots. Really appreciate your presentation.
Thanks, Miriam.
And
I appreciate it.
thanks to everybody who has stuck with us this whole time. That's wonderful. A late night and back to work tomorrow, right? For everybody. Thank everyone.
I would like to suggest before going, so to have a group photo again for today's, and if it's possible, please turn on your cameras. Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate all of your participation. Great. I'm going to take a photo. Okay. So you can say hello, show some emotions. Yeah. So thank you. So yeah, waiting. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Good. One more time. Okay. Thank you very much. And in this mode, Manisha, do you have anything to say?
I cannot thank enough. I think that can go on, but it was really fun. You guys made it worth every bit. I hope to see you guys in November. So if you want to present again, you were inspired today. It doesn't have to be something big, you know, small innovations, small things. Just present it, and we're like a, you know, little learning community. We can sort of churn those ideas around and do something crazy like Marija did. I wanted her to change her title, and she said, nope, I want that title. So, you know, and now I see why, because I couldn't see the broader picture. So we can all continue learning and learn together. There's nothing better than that. So keep your little ideas. You know, I like to say that every teacher has a story. So save on those stories, make a note of those stories. Those little stories could be inspiring, you know. So bring those stories with you. Send it to Muqaddas or me, and I'll see you.
Yeah.
I think we'll all see you. I'm going to put it in the chat, November. And Muqaddas, confirm it's 18th and 19th, right?
Yes. This year, on November 18th and 19th, we are going to have Design Thinking Education Conference, fourth cohort, I can say. So this conference was just small idea when we just started working with online world learning, Manisha, Miriam, and Barbara. And then you see, so now we have the third, fourth continuation. Hopefully one day we will have, it will be hybrid, in person, maybe in Kyrgyzstan or in America or somewhere else. So we can pass. You are welcome to join us. And I just would like to say again, thank you for all of you. And usually I do like this. So we should praise ourselves, just put on your hands on your shoulder and praise yourself. Good job. Because we did it. Manisha, you have to do it post her because she was the first who did. Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice day, night, good night. Yes, and see you soon. And welcome to apply for our next conference. And we appreciate our presenters, participants, everyone. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck. And thank you, Agnes.